That feeling when you spend hours trying to write a funny intro, thinking up the most appropriate things to say regarding this bunch of comic books, but then realise they're just in-between issues that don't necessarily need an introduction. Go me, I guess. Lord of frickin' crappy intros. Good day all, RobotnikHolmes here, and to be absolutely honest, these next 4 issues aren't exactly important, but they serve as good in-between fodder. There's a battle here, a cool clash there, and a smidge of interesting dialogue that helps cement the cast's personalities in the IDW comics, courtesy of the main writer himself, Mr. Ian Flynn. One of these days I'll give my thoughts on how he writes Sonic and the gang extremely well, especially compared to former writers, but for now, I'm going to look at fighting skunk dudes. Don't judge me. Are any of these issues any good? Well, we'll never know if I don't stop narrating about it, so let's freaking go! Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. In this video, we are looking at Sonic the Hedgehog issues 13 to 16 by IDW Publishing. The cover for number 13 really cements what this issue is, which is basically a fun little romp involving Sonic and Tails and rough and tumble. The character expressions and postures are pretty good, and the visuals give me heavy Marvel vs. Capcom vibes. Look at these two goobers. The variant covers are definitely worth mentioning, as always with this comic. Kieran Gates' one with Sonic and Tails is a personal fave for its simplicity as well as its style. It's very close to like Sonic Channel art, while Four Drains and the Sega Shop exclusive ones are also interesting, if a little bit less so. However, the lighting is certainly worth mentioning. God, her covers are so good. IDW, let Four Drain pencil an issue for once. If she wants to, of course. Issue number 13, Calling Card. Times are relaxing on Sonic's world following the battle on Angel Island. The newly christened Restoration are scrambling to help the remaining stragglers following the Eggman War, but Sonic, Tails and Knuckles and the lot are doing their own things, as it were. Chillaxing, guarding the Master Emerald, as he should, Sonic forces, and tinkering with machines to help the local populace. Silver is also still hanging around, but he won't be important until later. All seems fine, until it isn't. Tails leads Sonic to Windmill Village, which has recently seen its population locked up, leaving it eerily bereft of civilians. Though Elder Scruffy is spotted up in a tree with a sign saying Pinata over his neck. Poor Scruffy. After he relays to the heroes what befell the town and how Mr. Tinker, or Eggman, was kidnapped, those very same perpetrators show up. Decked out in enhancements, a Gadget one and a Tail another, it's time for round 2 against the Bash Brothers. God damn it, me, you had one job. The Blue Blur has a bone to pick with the two goons, considering their manhandling of Eggman, ruining the peace and restoring the status quo. And the heroes and the two skunks get into a quick scuffle in the outskirts of the town. It starts off with only Sonic doing the fighting, him using every chance he can get to barter information out of them to no avail. And Tails makes sure the civilians are freed before joining his buddy, just in time for them to once again give the skunk boys a taste of their own medicine, and I mean that literally in this case. Look at Tails playing 4D chess with Ruff over here. That's gotta hurt, even if it's clear the violence is meant for slapstick purposes. As the battle escalates near the town, Sonic cuts off Tumble's mecha tail with the windmill's fan, leading to a comedic moment of grief that even Bean the Dynamite would find impressive. And now the two are willing to talk. Ruff gets one word in before he and his brother are whisked away by a portal, leading to Sonic and Tails wondering what the heck just happened. But what did happen? Well, while these events went on, back in what I assume to still be Final Egg, Dr. Starline and the recommitted to evil Eggman plot away in a laboratory. Yeah, you ready to see what that whole thing was about? It's metallic transmutation, achieved by means of a so-called metal virus. While still experimental, it involves pouring this silver-tinted gunk over stuff and turning it chrome, be it plants or live test subjects. and it seems to be successful in turning them into mindless, shiny-looking slaves. Anyway, the issue ends with the Doctors overlooking the battle, unamused, and going full steam ahead in Eggman's master plan, much to Starline's protest. It seems he'd rather get their work done first before they go on to the next phase, which is definitely foreshadowing their relationship later. They get to rough and tumble back, Metal Sonic rushes in and asks his popper for bloodlust, and Starline also aspires to take on Sonic next. Looks like we'll finally see how this dude is on the battlefield. For all intents and purposes, this issue pretty much exists just to foreshadow future events, with the other pages providing a fun and boisterous battle between the Bash Brothers and Sonic and Tails. The main drawback from having the main focus be a long fight is that it can get a little bit tiring to read, as was the case with some previous IDW issues that usually had Sonic and a buddy fight against badniks and whatnot, but at the very least there were some witty one-liners and character moments sprinkled throughout the issue, particularly in the dialogue. Seeing Tumble's tail envy upon seeing the two-tailed fox was certainly a highlight, and the visuals done by Adam Bryce Thomas are never not fricking stellar. I love the way he draws action panels and appropriate character expressions, though I notice his art here is a little more refined and less full of effects lines, if that's the right term. But that could be because this time around his art was coloured by Matt Holmes, a legendary colourist from the Archie Sonic days who never leaves a good panel done dirty. Holmes' use of colours is always terrific, particularly the eerie gleam effect on the Metal Virus liquid, and I enjoy seeing ABT experiment with silhouettes on Eggman here. Gosh, Eggman in silhouette form always looks like rightfully evil and ominous. I loved that Archie Sonic always did that to give the villain a little extra menace. But yeah, nice seeing the Doctors and more of the Warp Topaz thing, nice seeing them experiment using that epic sandwich from Sonic Unleashed, and I'm positive we'll see more of Platypus Scientist in future issues. Shame that most of this issue focuses on the rough and tumble mini-boss. It's less of a round 2 and more of just like a slight continuation of their last battle. I feel it could have had a better balance between the two perspectives, but at least it looked good. As for scores, I'll probably give it an average of 5 out of 10. Not bad, but not necessarily great as an issue in the larger scheme of things. Anyway, you guys want more of Starline? SpongeBob if you would please?
Well, here you go.
I hate to be a total stickler, but number 14's cover is a little on the messy side. There's a little too much to focus on at once, ABT's colouring and Wells' penciling don't quite fit together aesthetically, and personally, I'd make Sonic and Silver more in the foreground whilst darkening the Eggster. But that's just my caveman brain talking, I'm obviously no comic book illustrator. Grey and Fordrain's covers deserve more love, as they are both simpler and easier to digest, along with having decently cute illustrations and having the most awesome taste of eye-catching detail, especially if it was coloured by Reggie Graham. Welcome to the team, Ziggy Finn. Issue number 14, Misdirection, has Sonic hanging out with Silver up in the mountains, this time discovering an old Eggman hideout when some stranger happened to give Future Boy some sketchy directions. And speaking of strange, Metal Sonic just happens to be here to give the duo trouble, and the aforementioned stranger turns out to have been Dr. Starline, who formally introduces himself to the Blue Blur. A battle for Eggman's coordinates quickly escalates, but Sonic and Silver are no match for Metal Sonic and Starline's portal generator, but the Silver Dude is able to save the Hedgehog thanks to his telekinesis. Look at Silver using him as a sled. That's so funny. The Blue Blur rightfully demands details from the dude who turned Mr. Tinker into a villain again, and while he gives the codes to the vault within the base, he reveals that Eggman's planning something big, and that Starline actually placed explosives inside the vault with the intent to wipe them out, leaving Sonic to go in after him and seemingly perish in the ensuing explosion. Victory for Starline, but not for Eggman, I'm afraid. You see, after he was further experimenting with the metal virus on test subjects and ominously hinting at what he has planned for the Skunk Brothers when they barge in, Eggman is all but unamused at Dr. Starline's methods of eliminating his arch-nemesis, giving him this very tense but very insightful speech about how he and he alone is the only one to off him. And not in a haha there's a bomb Sonic now die kind of way, but one that breaks the Hedgehog's spirit and proves that the Mad Doctor is superior in his intellect. This whole speech is really interesting. Good thing Sonic's still alive, which certainly lets Starline off the hook, with the whole experience leaving his mind a little ruffled. This issue ends following Silver recovering in Restoration HQ. The heroes now know that Eggman is back, so it's time to investigate what exactly he has planned. Looks like next issue we'll have Sonic and Amy teaming up together. You gotta love it. So, Misdirection was a better story than the last one, if marginally. There's a lot of fun to be had in a Sonic and Metal fight, as short as it was. And the inclusion of Silver and his awesome powers made for a fun spectacle, all lovingly drawn by Yardley on pencils. Call me biased, but I could never tire from seeing how he draws the Sonic cast. Never. Though, while the art was great, the colouring in this issue, done by newcomer Leonardo Ito, aren't as up to par.
Gentlemen?
On my first reading, I remember not liking the colours or how washed out everything looks, nor how Silver and Metal Sonic didn't really stand out against the background, and I swear there's a miscolour or two amongst its panels, but that may have just been because the whole thing reminded me of that other Sonic issue with lacklustre colours and depicting a snowstorm. Ugh. Nowadays, I find a bit more of an appreciation for this issue's art. Though the colours aren't very eye-catching, it makes sense due to its snowy setting, and the indoor locations are both dimly lit bunkers anyway, so you can't say it's not realistic. That is what it was like in the games. My favourite page is definitely the one of Eggman totally scolding Starline. The cut from a snowy white to an eerie green and red helps accentuate the tension, you know? All in all, issue number 14 is more of the typical heroes fight bad guys before they escape kind of scenario, but there's a little bit more charm and characterization to enjoy. Due to it being more fun than the previous one, I guess I'll grant it a rating of 6 out of 10? Is that fair? I think it's fair. What's next on the agenda? Oh, these guys again? Issue number 15's cover certainly has a lot going on, though it's thankfully less cluttered than the last one, and I appreciate the use of action lines. The other covers, done by Fordrain and Diana Skelly, are equally awesome. Fordrain's one shows Amy Rose in an epic light, and Skelly's does a bang-up job of foreshadowing what's in this issue proper. Did you know that the original plan was to have Sonic's shadow literally be Metal Sonic? I can understand why they didn't go through with that, as Metal Sonic himself isn't involved in the story yet. I'll get into more details involving this cover artist, but for now, time to strap ourselves in for the oncoming ride, folks. It's gonna be the bumpy. Issue number 15, Patient Zero. Now that Rough and Tumble have been outfitted with backpacks containing the metal virus, I guess it's time for their rematch against Sonic. Curious that they're being sent out into the fray so soon after their last appearance. I wonder if the narrative has plans for them or something. Sonic's teaming up with Amy Rose this issue, and they are investigating Echo Mine, a former Eggman base raided by the Resistance during the war. It also has an entrance in the shape of the Doctor's face. It's meant to be Eggman, but it more heavily resembles the nightmare fuel faces from Sonic Spinball. Inside, it is eerie and quiet, and Amy proceeds to hack into the Eggnet and finds plans involving a strange space station-like structure. It's damn near a dead ringer for the Space Colony arc, which even Sonic notes a resemblance. But no time to think about that, here comes trouble. With a bit of a fumble, piloting a big drill mech, it's Rough and Tumble. Man, these action panels are so good. After a good chase scene, their vehicle gets trashed and tossed off the edge of a deep chasm, forcing the two to activate their goo backpacks the good doctor provided them with, and then, Jesus Christ, things start getting crazy really quickly. What were Rough and Tumble are now gone, replaced with creepy, glistening husks of their former selves. They still possess their strength, and as Amy discovers, are pretty much invincible. The shiny zombies are also corrosive to the touch, as Sonic quickly learns, which is not good. This stuff can spread, it's toxic as hell, and it needs to be dealt with accordingly before it gets out of hand. The issue comes to a close following Amy's shocked silence and the blue blur saying that they need to think of a way to remove it, and fast, all the while the bad guys are watching them from afar via a security camera. The villain noticed Sonic called the zombie robots Zombots earlier, so in true Eggman fashion, he coins the phrase and then just goes with it. It would appear that the next step of the plan is to unleash that stuff on the world proper. Holy crap, you'll never see a more grim cliffhanger in a Sonic book than here. And I say that as a compliment. Okay, controversial opinion incoming, I never really thought much of this issue. I didn't think it was that great in my initial reading, and I kind of still don't. It's the third in what I unceremoniously refer to as the Setup Tetralogy, due to how much of it hinges on teasing on what the next issue is going to be about. Let me get into the things I enjoy first. I don't want this to be all negative. The action and pages of Sonic and a pal facing off against the issue's threat never disappoints, as traditional as it is in this comic. And it was spectacular seeing them speed around a mine while fighting a big drill mech, piloted by someone who is not Eggman for once. It and this issue's main cover were drawn by newcomer Jack Lawrence. We're going to be seeing a lot of his art in the Metal Virus arc, I can tell you that for free. This issue is filled with much more moody undertones than what we have seen previously. The desolate mine is one thing, but there's also the brief history we get of it in the first page, and there's a couple of tense narration as the heroes cross its empty corridors. The mini-boss against the, what is it called? It doesn't even have a name? Alright, the Egg Skunk drill is really cool, and I was keen on seeing it in action. And Amy Rose gets to show off more of her bad arsery, which is nice. I love this one panel where even her hammer impact lines have a slight heart shape. It's little touches like this that make me appreciate Lawrence's penciling. Considering this is the first time he's drawn the Blue Blur, I'm surprised I don't have that many other complaints about the illustrations. The Zombot reveal was pretty well foreshadowed, thanks to Eggman's suspicious instructions, though I did feel that the tail end of this issue went on for a bit too long in the fighting department. It's meant to be freaking chaotic to hype up just how much of a threat the metallic goop is, and it is really cool. It's like this continuity's version of roboticization, but I still feel like there could have been a bit more time spent on how the characters currently feel in this situation, instead of just a page and a cliffhanger. That's just me though. All in all, there's a lot I enjoy out of this issue, as a setup, and I still wish it could have been a bit more of its own thing. I'm trying not to give it an average score, considering the talent involved and how it leads to future issues, so a 6 out of 10, but just barely. On to the clinical trials, I guess. Damn. Issue number 16 is the Metal Virus prologue that the previous one wishes it was. Just look at this dimly lit cover with the handprint overlay. It's becoming apparent that we're in more serious territory now. God, I adore Evan Stanley's art. The variant covers once again showcase the other artists' styles, with John Gray's assemble piece with the current good guy cast and a frick ton of wisps, and Fordrain's consistently awesome cover art showcasing scenes that actually aren't in the comic at all. Still awesome though, I love the lighting and the red eyes piercing the dark. Issue number 16, Infection, has Sonic running off the Metal Virus in Tails' cozy little workshop, which a hyperactive Tangle is currently visiting. I'm assuming this is the workshop at the Mystic Ruins, what with those water turner thingies being there. This is such a mood shift too. The last we saw of Sonic, he was keeping his cool but panicking under the stress. I guess by now they've sorted out the problem by making him run on a hamster wheel to remove the spreading. I sure am glad they figured it out in between issues and not like at the end of the last one. Sonic keeps Tangle up to speed regarding the Eggman, the Amnesia, and the Zombot situation, and while the Hedgy boy thinks he might be cured, he quickly learns that the infection ain't going away anytime soon. Look at Tangle just flopping onto the ground like a doof. Best character, 10 out of 10. While going out on a jog, possibly to stop wherever the latest threat might be, Sonic's feeling contemplative. He's dealt with weird curses before, as is nicely illustrated with these secret rings and unleashed flashbacks, but he's positive that he'll get through it like he always does. Maybe. Meanwhile, on a totally different note, any of you guys ever seen Eggman lounge on a throne decorated by the 7 Chaos Emeralds? I sure haven't until now. What a boss-ass move. The Face Ship is launched, this mini Death Egg looking thing capable of spreading the Metal Virus onto the populace. We get more than enough pages of the Doctor himself showing Starline all of its features and functions, from the viewing deck and the boss-ass throne to the Metal Virus plant, where Eggman reveals his long-term motivations for the planet, the world, and even other dimensions if he eventually gets to that point. For real, it's here where we see that IDW Eggman is a real piece of work, definitely not as whimsical as Archie Eggman. And if that doesn't persuade you that the villain in this comic is totally heartless, look no further than the first sight of the infection, the town of which to become the epicenter of the Metal Virus, Windmill Village, the place that formerly accepted his amnesiac self. No good deed goes unpunished indeed. Gosh, I just really feel bad for Elder Scruffy. Eggman is certainly pleased by his zombie army, and his sheer evilness is enough to bring his fanboy to tears. Sure, it's all glorious now, but who knows when these guys will get their comeuppance for creating such an outbreak? They can't control it for long, right? The issue ends with the Zombots being ordered to head on out and infect the surrounding areas. Not even the freaking trees and grass are safe. It takes but a night for the stuff to grow and transfigure the local wildlife, And the final page shows this little flicky heading on over to Seaside City, where we are sure to see a whole lot of zombie chaos in the next issue. Check out this dramatic footer down here. The Chaotix investigate the end of the world! Like I hinted at the start, my views on issue number 16 is that it makes for a very effective precursor to the startling events we'll later see. The decision to have the first half focus on Sonic and his friends during the relaxing, almost cheerful downtime, only to slip more gradually into how the characters cope with the fact that Sonic has a robot virus on him, that finally ends in the horrors of the impending zombie eruption is wholly intended, I feel. It's a way more natural shift in mood than anything the previous issue tried to do. While we didn't exactly need a guided tour of Eggman's new mobile home, the pages depicting the carnage, the sweeping flood of metallic liquid laying waste to Windmill Village is, as direful as it is seeing beloved NPCs turn into zombies, really powerful in showing just how horrible Eggman's actions affects the world. It's got moments straight out of a zombie flick, and I'm just glad that they are set during the day because otherwise it would probably legit dip closer into horror movie territory. Lawrence does a fantastic job depicting the zombots and the threat that they impose on the planet. Meanwhile, all the pages of Tangle bumping into Sonic and Tails were drawn by another Archie Sonic veteran, Diana Skelly, and man, I did not realise at first that this came from her. I mean, compared to her art on the Championship and Panic in the Sky arcs, it's way more stable and less expressive than her other works. I kinda miss that zany style honestly, but I suppose it's due to Sega having more strict guidelines on the IDW comic. No funny faces, just keep them totally on model. Except with Tangle, you're free to give her whatever she wants. I legit love how Skelly draws Tangle. She goes hand in hand with her eccentric art style. I was thoroughly delighted by both the illustrations and the story gradually unravelling into the next proper chapter of IDW Sonic. The unfortunate timing and exactly how long the Metal Virus arc will last is a criticism for another day, but for now, this issue did wonders in hyping it up. Because of these factors, I'll happily give it a 7 out of 10. Cheers for watching this video, by the by. My upload schedule is never not sporadic, but I appreciate that people still watch it. I can make a freaking meme out of it. I could just skip through this entire arc like I currently do with the Archie Sonic issues, because god there's a lot of fluff to sift through there. But then again, we'll be missing out on some really important moments. We gotta see how the Chaotix, Gemmerl and Cream and all that handle these situations, and I'm excited to get there. In the next video, I plan on looking at the Tangle and Whisper miniseries. Both because it's the next story, chronologically, and also because I kinda need a break from the whole metal virus thing. It hits a little bit too close to home, if you ask me. Stay safe, you guys. Wear a mask if you can. Thank you ever so much for watching, if indeed you still are, and I'll see you in the next video. Die.